Before the kings and kingdoms, Burundi's hills were home to the Twa, the original forest dwellers, skilled hunter-gatherers who thrived in harmony with nature. For centuries the TWA roamed these mountains, living off the land. Around the 8th century, the Hutu arrived, bringing farming and new ways to shape the landscape. They cleared land, planted crops, and slowly built villages, integrating with the TWA rather than conquering them. The two groups traded, intermarried, and shared the Kirundi language, blending their cultures into something new. This wasn't a story of conquest but of gradual mixing, like a potluck where everyone brings their best dish. The Twa's forest wisdom met the Hutus' agricultural skills, laying the foundation for a complex society. Then, in the 15th century, the Tutsi arrived, herding their majestic Ankole Watusi cattle. Cattle weren't just food, they were wealth, status, and power. The Tutsi sought grazing land, adding a new layer to Burundi's social fabric. Now, the hills were home to forest experts, master farmers, and cattle connoisseurs. These three groups, Twa, Hutu, and Tutsi, created a vibrant, diverse society. Their interactions set the stage for one of Africa's most enduring kingdoms. This blend of peoples and lifestyles would shape Burundi's destiny. The land was never empty, it was always alive with stories, skills, and the seeds of a nation. And that's where the real story begins. So how did scattered communities become a kingdom? Enter Ntare Rushatsi Kembarantama, the legendary unifier. Whether he came from Rwanda, the heavens, or humble local roots, Ntare united the clans in the 17th century. He wasn't just a conqueror, he was a master politician and strategist. Ntare established the Ganwa dynasty and the role of Mwami, the king who was both ruler and spiritual leader. The Mwamis' authority rested on land and, above all, cattle. Loyalty to the king meant access to land and herds. A social contract sealed with cows, not signatures. This system created stability and a network of allegiance radiating from the royal court. The Mwami mediated disputes, organized defense, and managed resources, forging a shared identity. People began to see themselves as subjects of Burundi, not just members of a clan. The kingdom grew hill by hill, uniting people under a single banner. It was a nation built on trust, tradition, and the promise of prosperity. The Ganwa dynasty would rule for centuries, shaping the destiny of the land. This was the birth of the Kingdom of Burundi, a nation with roots deeper than any border. And that's how a legend became a legacy. At the top stood the Mwami, but he didn't rule alone. Surrounding him was the council of Bashingantahe, wise elders who advised, judged, and kept justice fair. The real power brokers were the Ganwa, royal princes descended from Ntare. The Mwami appointed Ganwa as chiefs, each ruling a region, collecting tribute and raising warriors. Power was personal. Loyalty flowed from farmer to chief to king, all bound by tradition and cattle. Governance was face-to-face. If you had a problem, you went to your chief, not a distant bureaucracy. But the royal court was no utopia. Politics thrived, and succession was a high-stakes game. Ganwa princes competed for the Mwami's favor, and the throne was often contested. Intrigue, alliances, and rivalries kept the kingdom dynamic and sometimes unstable. To survive, you needed diplomacy, cunning, and a touch of ruthlessness. This system kept power centralized but always in motion. The Mwami's court was a place of poetry, plotting, and prestige. It was a delicate dance, balancing unity, ambition, and tradition. This complex web of relationships made Burundi's kingdom both resilient and ever-evolving. And that's how the art of ruling shaped a nation. Burundi's social structure was fluid, not fixed. Hutu were mostly farmers, the backbone of the economy, but wealth could change your status. A Hutu family with enough cattle could rise to become Tutsi. A Tutsi who lost their herd could slip down the ladder. It was about economic standing, not ancestry. The TWA, the smallest group, were forest specialists and potters, respected but often marginalized as society changed. Social mobility was real, and identities could shift over generations. The lines between groups were blurry, not the rigid categories imposed later by outsiders. This delicate balance worked for centuries, creating a society where status was earned, not inherited. It was a nuanced system, until colonial powers tried to redraw the lines. To understand Burundi, you need to know three things: cattle drums and beliefs. Cattle were the currency of life. Wealth, marriage, and power all revolved around the herd. The king's authority was measured in cows, and disputes were settled with livestock, not lawyers. The Tutsi cattle were revered, celebrated in poetry, and treated as family. Then came the drums, the legendary Abatimbo royal drummers. Their rhythms weren't just music, they were the heartbeat of the kingdom, calling people together and honoring ancestors. The sacred Karyenda drum symbolized the king's power and the unity of the nation. Spiritually, Burundians believed in Imana, a distant creator, but daily life was guided by the ancestors. Ancestors were honored with rituals, ensuring protection and harmony. The Karanga spirit cult added another layer, with priests and priestesses channeling prophecies and healing. This spiritual tapestry bound families, villages, and the kingdom together. Respect for elders, reverence for cattle, and the power of the drum created a shared cultural language. These traditions gave life meaning and held society together. Burundi's soul was found in its rhythms, its herds, and its deep respect for the past. That's what made the kingdom more than just a place. It was a living, breathing community. For centuries, Burundi was a fortress, strong, centralized, and fiercely independent. Its mountains kept invaders at bay, and its kings like Ntare IV expanded and unified the kingdom. The army was reorganized, borders secured, and national pride soared. While much of Africa faced the slave trade and foreign incursions, Burundi held outsiders at arm's length. But by the late 1800s, European explorers and colonizers arrived. The Burundians resisted, but the scramble for Africa was relentless. In 1890, Germany claimed Burundi without local consent, and resistance was fierce. The arrival of Europeans marked the end of an era. Burundi's ancient kingdom was about to face its greatest test. The world was changing and Burundi would never be the same. Modern Burundi's identity is rooted in its pre-colonial past. The kingdom's borders, language, and culture laid the foundation for nationhood. Colonial powers misunderstood and distorted Burundi's fluid social system, turning it into rigid racial divisions. This planted seeds of conflict that still echo today. Yet the legacy of the Bashingantahe elders and the royal drummers endures, offering unity and pride. Burundi's history is a story of resilience, complexity, and cultural richness. Understanding this past challenges stereotypes and reveals a sophisticated African society. The echoes of the kingdom are everywhere, in the hills, the drums, and the spirit of the people. Burundi's future depends on remembering and learning from this legacy. The past isn't just history, it's the key to building a peaceful, united tomorrow.